The next person I'd like to invite to the stage is also very special for different reasons. This is Shyama Singh from Jharkhand. Shyama's introduction, perhaps I should do a little bit in Hindi because she's a Hindi speaker. श्यामा का परिचय मैं हिंदी में कर रही हूँ क्योंकि वो खुद हिंदी भाषी हैं. श्यामा लातेहार ज़िला की हैं झारखंड में और वहाँ पर रोज़गार गारंटी कानून, नेशनल रूरल एम्प्लॉयमेंट गारंटी एक्ट पर ये काफ़ी कठिन स्थिति में काम कर रही हैं. खाद्य सुरक्षा पे भी इनका बहुत अच्छा काम रहा है. एंड प्रोफेसर अमर्त्य सेन वाज आल्सो क्वाइट डिलाइटेड टू हैव the opportunity to hear someone from the field. So we are very grateful to her for coming. I'm not introducing Professor Shanta Sinha in the same way because I'm assuming everyone in this audience already is familiar with her work. She has done stellar work on child rights related to child labor and child education, nutrition, and a whole range of other things which perhaps even I don't know about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, and Ankita is going to translate for Shyama because the entire discussion is going to be in English because even Professor Amartya Sen, his first language is not Hindi. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a brief introduction of the topic, which perhaps I may repeat once they come. As you know, it's about hunger and nutrition. The particular timing of this panel discussion is related to the fact that the government of India is talking about enacting a law to ensure food security in the country. The act takes a sort of life cycle approach to food security, realizing that the food needs or the food requirements of an infant are different from those of a pregnant woman, and those are different from adults like you and me. So it has a whole range of schemes which include in-kind transfers as well as cash transfers. So there are in-kind transfer schemes such as the midday meal scheme, which provides a free school meal to children who go to government schools up to class 8. And then there's the Integrated Child Development Services, which is the only government program which reaches children under the age of 6. And this is a very crucial program, and I'm sure Shanta Sinha is going to talk about this, and I won't go into the details of it. This age group is very important from the point of view of nutrition, because if we miss that time, then basically it's very difficult for children to catch up in the rest of their lives. So that's the age at which we need to make sure that they have good nutrition, and this is evidence from the field of medical sciences, economics, etc., in the past few years. The most well-known item of the Food Security Act is the public distribution system, which is popular for two reasons, or is known in the public for two reasons. It's known as a corrupt system, leaky, nothing reaches the poor, all the wrong people have a BPL card, a below poverty line card, all the rich people have a BPL card, and all the poor people have APL cards and are left out of this program. However, actually, the truth is a little bit different. It's a little bit different in the sense that it is a problem that a lot of poor people are left out of this program because the coverage of the program is very small. It's much smaller than required. And that's why a lot of poor people get left out. And it's true that it's leaky, but two things have changed, especially in the past decade. One is that there is a lot of variation across the country in states like Himachal, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, etc. The scheme works reasonably well. Not only does it give wheat and rice, it also gives pulses and oil. And the other big difference is that in the past decade is that even in states that the scheme was completely defunct, even in those states, one has started seeing a bit of a revival of the PDS. So in states like Chhattisgarh and Orissa, which were really considered basket cases a few years ago, what has happened is that leakages have gone down, and these states are also beginning to introduce more nutritious items into the PDS. So just to give you an example, the leakages in Chhattisgarh have gone from 50% to about 10%. In the state of Orissa, it used to be in 2004-5 75%, and now it's gone down to about 30%. Obviously, 30% is hardly something to pat ourselves on the back about, but it does suggest that change is possible and change in the right direction is possible. So I'm not going to go on and on about these things. I'll probably have another chance to interject while the others are speaking. I'll invite Shyama to come and start. And what I'll do is, once she finishes, I'll translate into English, just for the benefit of those who are unable to follow her particular type of Hindi. Shyama.
साथियों, मेरा नाम श्यामा है। मैं झारखंड के लातेहार जिला से आई हूँ। यहाँ पे उपस्थित सभी बुद्धिजीवियों को मेरी ओर से झारखंडी जोहार है। मैं हकीकत मैं ज़मीनी स्तर में काम करती हूँ। अभी राइट टू फूड के लेके जो बात करने की मुझे मौका मिला है, अभी अगर एक नज़र में झारखंड में देखूँ तो 100 में 90% गरीबी है, और 90% में लगभग 30% लोगों के पास राशन कार्ड हैं जिन्हें राशन मिलती है। अभी भी मतलब 60% लोगों की राशन कार्ड की ज़रूरी है और राशन मिलना चाहिए। और जो भी राशन मिल रही है, जिनका कार्ड है, राशन की स्थिति है कि मतलब 12 महीने में 4 महीना बिल्कुल ही राशन नहीं दिया जा रहा है, 8 महीने के राशन मिल रही है। और 35 किलो के जगह में 30 kg की दर से मिल रही है, मतलब 40 रुपये लेता है। और
थैंक्स, ठीक है। सो श्यामा, थोड़ा सा ये बताइए कि आप जिस पंचायत से हैं वहाँ पर आपने किस तरह का काम किया है और उसका क्या असर पड़ा है?
भोजन के अधिकार को लेकर हमने ग्राम सभा से लेकर काम की हूँ। ग्राम सभा मेरा हर महीने में 20 तारीख को बैठती है और एक एक मुद्दा पे चिंतन करती है। कभी राइट टू फूड को लेकर, NRGA को लेकर, इस तरह मुद्दे को लेकर उन्होंने बात करती है। और ग्राम सभा में इसका निगरानी है, निगरानी समिति है जो खाद्य सुरक्षा के उठाव प्रखंड से लेके जो गांव स्तर तक आती है, इसका उठाव का निगरानी करते हैं। और इसका अलग से भी जो पंचायत चुना हुई है उसका भी जिम्मेवारी है पंचायत का। मुखिया, पंचायत समिति वो दुकान में जाके खुद से वो राशन को बंटवारा करते हैं।
थोड़ा सा मैं इंग्लिश में बोल देती हूँ, फिर उसके बाद आप बताना कि जो नरेगा पे आपने काम किया है उसके बारे में क्या फ़र्क आया, क्या फ़र्क नहीं आया। सो बेसिकली शी इज सेइंग दैट दे हैव रेगुलर ग्राम सभा मीटिंग्स विच आर मैंडेटेड अंडर द पंचायती राज नॉर्म्स, and these meetings are regularly monitoring the functioning of the ration shop in their village. Whatever decisions are made in the Gram Sabha are monitored by Nigrani Samiti, which is a monitoring committee of the Gram Sabha. And I've requested her to talk a little bit about the work they've been doing on the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act on this topic. नरेगा पे जो काम किया,
नरेगा में हम लोग को काफ़ी संघर्ष करना पड़ा है। अभी तक हम लोग 2 साथियों को गंवा चुके। एक ललित मेहता नाम करके थे, वो 2008 में उनका हत्या हुई। एक नियामत अंसारी थे जो उनका 2010 में हत्या हुई है। मतलब उस पंचायत में, उस ब्लॉक में काफ़ी परेशानी हुई है हम लोग के साथ काम करने के लिए। सबसे क्या बोले, सरकार के साथ मेरा बहुत बड़ा तालमेल है और सहयोग भी मिल रही है। तो उनकी सहयोग और मेरा सहयोग, दोनों के सहयोग से हम लोगों ने ग्राम सभा का फिक्सेशन किया कि हर माह में ग्राम सभा बैठनी चाहिए और वहीं से योजना चयन, क्रियान्वयन, इन सभी तमाम चीज़ों का मतलब वहाँ पर होना चाहिए। जब काम खुल जाती है तो ग्राम सभा में मास्टर रोल, पेमेंट एडवाइज पंचायत ऑफिस में भी सटवाती हूँ और ग्राम सभा में भी लेके मतलब उसको प्रस्तुति किया जाता है। और योजना जो अभी नरेगा के तहत जो योजना हो रही है वो मेट के नाम से मतलब एग्रीमेंट हो रही है। तो अभी जो मेट चयन हुए हैं वो ठेकेदार वर्ग के लोग हैं। तो हम लोगों ने देखा कि ठेकेदार को हम कैसे हटाएं यहाँ से। तो कुछ ठेकेदार भी हैं, कुछ आम लड़का लोग भी हैं जो समाज के बीच में काम करते हैं। तो अभी तक मतलब समाज के बीच में काम करने वाले लोग को एक भी योजना नहीं मिली थी। तो अभी जो जिला उपायुक्त नए आए हैं तो उनका सहयोग से हम लोगों ने ग्राम सभा किया और योजना का चयन खुद से मतलब ग्राम सभा करती है और मेट का भी चयन साथ साथ वो कर ले रही है। इस तरह का काम को हम लोग आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं और पारदर्शिता सभी तरह का जो कामें हो रही हैं सबका पारदर्शिता होता है, मेजरमेंट भी वहीं पे होता है और सारे चीज़ वहीं पे होता है। तो इस तरह का हम लोगों ने काम को आगे बढ़ा रहा है। और पिछले साल से अभी तक मतलब 2011-12 हमारे यहाँ 2 पंचायत में गहन रूप से काम चल रही है। 2 पंचायत में 108 कुएँ थे। कुआं का काम सरकार ही फिक्सेशन किया था कि इस वर्ष कुआं ही बनाना चाहिए, तो उन्हीं के आधार से मतलब काम चला था। तो 8 कुआं मतलब धंस गए काफ़ी बारिश होने के बाद, और उसके बाद में बाकी कुआं बना है जिसमें किसान का बहुत बड़ा फ़ायदा हुआ है, फसल भी लगी हुई है अभी। तो इस तरह के काम को हम लोगों ने आगे बढ़ाया है।
Okay, so I'll quickly translate and give you a bit of the context because I think she's assuming everyone knows how National Rural Employment Guarantee works are implemented in rural areas. So she said that first thing which is very important is that the area in which she works is a very difficult area. We have lost 2 friends from her own office. I mean, the Sahayata Kendra at which she works. The first one was Lalit Mehta, who was murdered on a bike when he was returning home on a bike in 2008 in May, while we were actually undertaking a social audit and a survey of NREGA in that area. It is alleged that someone had been paid to kill him. And then after that, 2 years ago, actually just when I joined IIT, another friend, Niyamat Ansari, was in fact beaten to death in his own, just outside his own home in a field. In both cases, it is alleged or it is felt that they were targeted because they were exposing all the corruption in that area. So in that very difficult circumstance, Shyama has been working. In fact, I remember the night when Niyamat had been kidnapped by the Maoists and he was being beaten. We were on the phone with them and Shyama managed to hire a tempo, and she got into the tempo and she said, I'm going to his village to, and this is a jungle area and everyone was hiding in the fields because they were scared of being beaten also. So she's quite a fearless woman. So she said in these circumstances, these are the circumstances in which we are working. So in her own panchayat, they have been conducting regular Gram Sabha meetings, which are meetings of the electorate of the panchayat, where they have been deciding what works to undertake under the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So the act says that it should be decided by the villagers themselves what should be built. Should it be a well or a road or whatever it is? And so they have been making proposals and then also monitoring them. The other improvement, so this is actually quite a big achievement because some of you will remember that in Jharkhand, Panchayati Raj elections were held for the first time very recently. The improvement that has happened in her area as a result of some of their work is that contractors who are banned under NREGA, they have been able to, shoo them away from the program. And why is it important to ban the contractors? Because when the contractors come, they bring corrupt practices with them. Yeah, so because they're in it to make money and then they either exploit laborers or they cheat the system, etc. So she said that we have been able to keep such contractors out of the system. One of the ways in which the contractors were managing to implement programs in spite of the ban under the Act is that they used to become mates. So mates are the people who take attendance. And that attendance sheet is actually the key document in NREGA because people would inflate attendance on these sheets and then they would go to the block office and say, Shyama has worked 50 days, now give me Shyama's 50 days of wages. And if Shyama had worked 5 days, she would get her 5 days, but the rest would go into their pockets. So that attendance sheet and the role of the mate was crucial, and they've been able to make sure that the person who becomes the mate is actually someone they trust and someone from the village, not somebody who's a contractor or the contractor's, whatever. Of course, this has changed somewhat in the past few years because in 2008, NREGA payments became compulsorily it was compulsory to make them through bank and post office accounts. So now even if they put 50 days against Shyama's name, the money goes into her bank account. So if somebody wants to get to the money, they have to either go and hold her by the collar, or they have to go and say, hey, Shyama, you're my friend, and why don't we just split the money? You sit at home, you won't have to do anything, and we'll just defraud the system. So that sort of practice they've been able to stop. Another way they've been able to bring down corruption in their area is by bringing greater transparency. Yeah, so attendance records are maintained in the public so that everyone can see whose name is there. One of the things she mentioned is the wells. Under NREJ, they've been constructing wells in her panchayat. तो श्यामा जो कुएं बने हैं, उसका थोड़ा सा बताएंगे कि कुएं किस तरह से बने, अच्छे हैं, टूट गए, कोई काम का है कि नहीं है?
मेरे यहाँ कुआं जो बना, बारिश जब आने लगी तो हम लोगों ने प्रखंड विकास पदाधिकारी के साथ बैठे और बोले कि अगर उनका मटेरियल का व्यवस्था नहीं करते हैं तो कुआं धंस जाएगी। तो उन्होंने मटेरियल, गरीब नरेगा आने से गरीब किसानों का काम हो रही है, तो गरीब के पास पैसे नहीं थे, तो जब तक कुआं को 5 फीट नहीं बांधिएगा तब तक अग्रिम राशि नहीं देता है सरकार। तो हम लोगों ने उनसे बैठ के बोले कि पंचायत एजेंसी है, आप पंचायत के लोगों के थ्रू आपने जो मटेरियल है, सीमेंट, छड़ और पत्थर है, ये 3 चीज़ का व्यवस्था कर देते हैं तो शायद कुआं बन जाएगी। तो उन्होंने, हम लोग को ही सलाह से उन्होंने मटेरियल का व्यवस्था कर दिया और कुआं अच्छे बने हैं। मतलब क्या बोला जाए, मतलब कुआं अच्छा बना है।
ठीक है, और कुएं का लोग क्या इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं?
अभी कुएं के लोग खेती कर रहे हैं, गेहूं लगा हुआ है, आलू है, प्याज ये लगाया हुआ है।
कुएं के पानी से है कि पहले से भी करते थे?
नहीं, कुएं के पानी से लगा हुआ है।
ठीक है, some of the there has been a lot of problem in the completion of these wells, and actually a lot of you must be engineers. It's mainly because of the lack of proper engineering inputs or technical inputs that many wells collapsed in Jharkhand 2 years ago, but they have been able to complete a few, and those wells which have been constructed, people are using to irrigate their fields, and now they've started growing. They used to not do it. Latehar is a very dry region. Sorry. I don't know if some of you have read Mahashweta Devi's work. She wrote a lot about Palamu, and this is very much that region. This is the Palamu belt, which was known for starvation deaths, etc. And so now in this area, people have been able to start growing crops, which was not possible for them to do earlier because they were dependent on the rain. इसके अलावा आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे? ये जो खाद्य सुरक्षा कानून बन रहा है, उसका कोई मतलब है आपके क्षेत्र में?
हमें लगता है कि खाद्य सुरक्षा कानून बनना चाहिए। नहीं बनने से, अभी ताज़ा खबर है, हमने कुछ पेपर कटिंग लाए थे पर यहाँ पर नहीं ला पाए, भूल गए। कई जगह का इस तरह का शिकायत आया है कि डीलर अपना मनमानी कर रहा है, या तो राशन मांगने गया तो गोली भी चला दिया है, आँख भी फोड़ दिए गए हैं। इस तरह का मतलब मेरा झारखंड में इस तरह को देखने के लिए ताज़ा 2 महीना का खबर है। तो शायद कानून बन जाए तो ऐसे लाभुक के बीच में ऐसे नौबत ना हो।
और जो अभी एक प्रस्ताव ये भी है कि जो अभी राशन मिल रहा है राशन की दुकान से, उसको ना दे के लोगों को कैश दिया जाए ताकि वो खुद से ले। उसमें आपके क्षेत्र में क्या विचार है, थोड़ा बता दीजिए।
झारखंड में मैं कई जगहों में अध्ययन की हूँ, लोगों के साथ, लाभुकों के साथ। अधिकतर लाभुक को कहना था कि मुझे राशन चाहिए, तो हम बोले कि राशन क्यों, पैसे क्यों नहीं लेंगे। तो उन्हें कई तरह का प्रॉब्लम मतलब निकाले हैं कि बैंक दूर है, बैंक एक ही है, गरीब लोग को जल्दी काम नहीं होता है, लाइन में लगे रहना पड़ता है, अच्छे लोग पीछे से जाते हैं फिर पैसा ले लेते हैं, हम लोग लाइन में खड़े रहते हैं, और फिर पैसा मिलेगा तो अन्न कहीं खर्चा में चल जाएगा, महंगाई हो रहा है, हम चावल नहीं खरीद पाएंगे। इस तरह का मतलब कई सारे बिंदु को निकाल के उन्होंने बताया है।
मैं थोड़ा सा इंग्लिश में कर देती हूँ। So basically I asked her if the National Food Security Act has much relevance in their area, and she's saying that corruption is still an issue in their area. So Jharkhand, at least 5 years ago when I started going, there used to be a place where people just took what they got from the PTS. If it opened once in 3 months, they took what they got. If it opened once in 6 months, that was fine, and nobody really complained very much. She's saying that corruption continues there. So out of 12 months that the shop is supposed to, every month they're supposed to get 35 kilos at 1 rupee. That is still not happening, but now what is happening is that they get for 8 months out of 4 months, and this is an improvement which we see in the National Sample Survey Organization data as well, that in Jharkhand the leakages were as high as Bihar, and they were around 90%. In 2009-10, things have improved a little bit, and they've come down to about 45%. So she mentions that, and then I asked her specifically what she feels about the proposal of replacing rations with cash. So some of the issues that she has highlighted is that people say, so she participated in a survey that actually IIT funded, IRD funded a survey in 2011 in 9 states, and as part of that study, we asked people what they thought of this proposal. She was part of that survey, and she says that people raised a whole range of problems. One was that the banking infrastructure is very inadequate. Actually, it's very difficult to get through to Shyama on the phone. She has a mobile, but connections are very poor in Jharkhand. So that's one thing, that connectivity is an issue. So, if you're going to do real-time transactions, how is that going to happen? Banking infrastructure is very poor. So there are long queues, and sometimes, not in her, she didn't mention it, but I'm saying that, sometimes there's violence at these banks because of the long queues. People are also concerned about inflation. This came out very clearly in our study, that the government may say today we'll give you 600 rupees and that may be adequate to buy whatever you want. But that 600, even within 2 months, that amount may not be able to buy the same quantity. And while the government may say and intend to, to link these amounts to inflation rates, how is that actually going to happen? Is it possible to monitor prices in different parts of the country? And in fact, in Himachal Pradesh, one of our respondents said, सरकार 5 साल में एक ही बार पैसा बढ़ाएगी और वो है इलेक्शन से पहले. So, people are quite smart that way. And I can say this since Mr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia is not here, otherwise he might. ठीक है. श्यामा, अगर आप और कुछ जोड़ना चाहें तो आप बोलिए, नहीं तो फिर मैं शांता सिन्हा से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि वो बोले. जो यहाँ सब लोग हैं, वो उनको शायद कम मौका मिलता होगा गांव क्षेत्र में जाने के लिए. सुबह आपने मुझे बहुत सारी बातें बताई थी, जो मुझे याद है वो मैंने आपसे पूछ लिया, लेकिन अगर आप कुछ और जोड़ना चाहें तो.
मैं कुछ सुझाव दे रही हूँ कि अध्ययन करने के बाद मुझे निकला था कि प्रखंड में जो राशन गोदाम है, वहाँ तक गोदाम आता है तो सब लोग को पता नहीं चल पाता है. जहाँ पर मैं काम कर रही हूँ वहाँ तक लोग तो जानते हैं. तो मतलब एक मीटिंग हुई थी जिसमें हम लोग ने ये सलाह लिया था कि अगर अभी तो पंचायत एजेंसी हो गई है, तो अगर गोदाम पंचायत एजेंसी में चल जाए और उसको चलाने के लिए एक व्यक्ति को नियुक्त किया जाए, ताकि वो पूरे महीने में खोल सके, अनाज लाभुकों को मिल सके महीने भर में. और नहीं तो अभी डीलर के यहाँ जो अनाज जाता है जन वितरण प्रणाली दुकान में, वो सिर्फ 3 दिन खुला होता है. 3 दिन तक अगर कोई गरीब का पैसा नहीं है तो वो नहीं ले पाते हैं अनाज, इसी तरह वंचित रह जाते हैं. तो हम लोग इस तरह का मतलब निकाले थे, और इसका एक स्वतंत्र ऑडिट टीम का गठन किया जाए, ताकि वो मतलब हर माह उसका ऑडिट हो. इस तरह का हम लोग ने सुझाव निकाला था.
ठीक है, शुक्रिया. ठीक है, थैंक यू. सो शी इज जस्ट सॉरी. So I'd like to now pass on the mic to Shanta Sinha. We are very, very grateful that she is here, because actually everyone talks about the PDS. I mean, in everyone's mind, even in mine to some extent, when we say National Food Security Act, it becomes equal to public distribution system. But in fact, if we are enacting this law to make a dent into the problem of hunger and nutrition, I'm sorry, even the font size of nutrition is small, then really the people we need to be focusing on are the children under 6. And Shanta's work has really been very important on that front. So, Shanta, actually they're here, so let's just wait for them. Sorry, I should inform you that they're here, so we'll just let them come on stage so that they'll also have a chance to hear what Shanta is saying. So, it's the combined market power of all four panelists, I would like to believe, as well as the topic that is being discussed. So on behalf of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences of the Indian Institute of Technology, I'd like to welcome both Professor Amartya Sen and Mr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia. They were also a little bit lost on campus. I do apologize for these. Okay. I'm guessing I don't need to spend time on introducing them. I'd just like to thank them for making time. I know both of them have a pretty busy schedule. What we've done so far is not to wait for you, but Shyama has already spoken. And she was sharing her experiences from Jharkhand. She was describing the sort of work they have been doing in her village in Latehar. And she said that, of course, there is corruption, but we are fighting it. And when things reach people, they do make a difference in people's lives. I think that's, in a nutshell, this is what she had to say. I had just invited Professor Shanta Sinha to make her comments on children's right to food especially.
Professor Amartya Sen, Shri Montek Singh Ahluwalia ji, Shyama ji, Reetika, and all child defenders, defenders of human rights, defenders of rights of the poor and disadvantaged, faculty of IIT, students. This is simply overwhelming. I have not come prepared for such a huge support for food security for all our citizens in the country, those who are disadvantaged, those who are deprived, and to, in fact, have a discussion on the issue of food security in a prestigious institution like that of IIT. And thank Reetika for this opportunity. What I thought I will do is, while we all know that the National Food Security Bill covers rights and entitlements of, as Reetika said, every section of the population, almost on a life cycle approach from children to adults, I will focus on what it contains for children. And I must say at the outset that I'm quite disappointed at what the Standing Committee had done to a National Food Security Bill, which did hold some amount of promise for children in the bill. So I thought I will just talk to you about what the bill has and why we are disappointed, and we feel that this is a good panel where we could make our one more effort to see that children get their access to food, quality food, and that their hunger is somewhere mitigated. I actually didn't want to start with statistics, but it is so important that we keep saying it again and again, that 46% of our country's children are malnourished. You know, sometimes we need to repeat some truths till it sort of really sinks in us and registers that this is a huge, huge issue that we will have to, as a nation, tackle. There are 60 million children who are underweight and under the age of 5. 67% of preschool deaths are associated with malnutrition. The proportion of stunted children under 5 is at 48%. And what does all these numbers mean? I think when you disaggregate it, you go to a place where Shyama comes from, Jharkhand, or say the tribal areas in Chhattisgarh, or when you go to some districts in Madhya Pradesh or Orissa, when you go to places in Uttar Pradesh or Andhra Pradesh, why go that far when you visit the slums in Delhi, or when you go to the slums in Mumbai or in Chennai? you feel, you really feel what the statistics actually mean. In fact, you can see it even at the traffic signals. You see young children who are barely sort of a year old, looking like 5-month-old with hair that grows red. And the commission has been receiving complaints after complaints, also in the hearings about children dying because of lack of food, because of malnutrition. And this, I think, is, as a Prime Minister said, it's quite a shame that in our country that we have been able to send a satellite, but we have not been able to reach out to the child in the neighborhood and see that there is no hunger there. And in fact, it is true of even the demands that we have seen from the migrant labor, where hearing after hearing they have made a demand for Anganwadi centers, for creches, for access to food. And it seems that when we do get these complaints of children dying, when we get complaints about a need for a strong Anganwadi center or an ICDS program, it is a great indication that people know that there is an Anganwadi program. People know that there is an ICDS program, and people want their children to be healthy. People want their children to be out of hunger. In fact, we have heard even boys and girls who are in classes 8, 9, and 10 who tell us because they have finished their elementary school, they have to remain hungry because the noon meal scheme has not been extended beyond beyond 14 years of age. And thankfully, in the new standing committee, it was decided that children up to 16 years of age will have a noon meal scheme. But just imagine going hungry as a student to school. So there is this kind of a hunger, there is this kind of a demand for food, demand for quality food, and people are aware of their rights, and there is such angst that things are not reaching. But what is important is that they are now aware. They are not going to tolerate when things don't happen. And as Shyama says, they are not going to keep quiet. They are organizing, they are questioning, they are in fact negotiating, bargaining with the system and getting what they think is best for them. There's so much of public action around food in the country, which some of us perhaps do not know, but I must tell you, the poor are making their demands. There's a crying demand, and they are engaging with the system, and I wish that each one of us gave our support to them while they engage with the system. This mood of strengthening the ICDS, strengthening the Anganwadi Center, and all its entitlements, I think we owe it also to the Right to Food campaign. There are several Right to Food campaign partners here today. And I think we also, in fact, owe it to the Supreme Court directives, and we also owe it to the state governments who followed up on Supreme Court directives. From 6 lakh Anganwadi centers, now there are 14 lakh Anganwadi centers. So that phenomenal expansion has really created this kind of a hope that children's food entitlements will be resolved. And that the Supreme Court order really introduced new discourse. It brought in a radical dimension for provisioning of food entitlements for all children, a universal coverage for all children, and for supplementary nutrition for adolescent children, for pregnant and lactating women, for all of them. You find that the Supreme Court has had a directive, and there were institutional arrangements to